This is Sunny with Sunny on Bulls podcast, and today we're going to be talking about the Chicago Bulls offseason. So let's just kind of go over a quick high-level summary of all the transactions that are official thus far in the offseason, and we'll just go over who we've lost. So Troy Brown Jr. Became a free agent. I believe he's with the Lakers. Malcolm Hill became a free agent. He was on the Summer League team, so I believe that he's still in play. We got Derek Jones Jr. became a free agent. We have re-signed him. Zach LaVine became a free agent. We have re-signed him to a max 5-year, I think originally reported $205 million contract. Matt Thomas became a free agent. Tristan Thompson became a free agent. Also Tyler Cook. And then the official signings, I already mentioned Derek Jones. We re-signed him and Zach LaVine we re-signed. We also have signed Andre Drummond to the Chicago Bulls on a multi-year contract. Obviously, rookie Dalen Terry. Justin Lewis signed a 2-way contract. And then also Javon Freeman Liberty has also signed a contract with the Chicago Bulls. One thing to note about his signing, at least how it's reported on, is that he's just signed a contract. It doesn't mention whether it's a 2-way contract or not, which is interesting. And I know that's been brought up on other podcasts I listen to and some other media outlets. I'm not going to look into that too much today, but something to comment on and maybe look for in the future. So let's just start with the rub. So last season, the Bulls, in a lot of people's eyes, especially the national media, their eyes, they overachieved in a lot of ways. A lot of teams had said, oh, they're a play-in team. Oh, Zach and DeMar aren't going to mesh well. A lot of things like that you were hearing. And our favorite, Nick Friedel, obviously all you Bulls fans are in love with him. Great national media reporter. But he always has nice things to say about the Bulls, of course. But that being said, I knew, you can't have a roster in the NBA and add players like Lonzo, Caruso, and Debo, aka DeMar DeRozan, expect your team to not make the playoffs, especially when you already have a core piece like Zach and then Vooch as well. I know a lot of Bulls fans may be down on Vooch, but I actually think Vooch is going to have a rebound year this upcoming season, and I'll explain why in an upcoming podcast. But I've seen some pictures of him this offseason hanging out at F1 and some other public events, and he looks like he's shredded. So I'm looking very forward to see Vooch this season. But yeah, let's just go over kind of right before the offseason. What was the expectation? Well, last year was such a amazing offseason for Bulls fans everywhere, just because we haven't really had a competent front office, to be honest with you. Garpax got lucky with Derrick Rose, and really that made their career. I believe they won Executive of the Year, perhaps shared that title, or at least Gar got it. And, there was a lot of rumors we were going to draft Michael Beasley, which would have been a nightmare. I recall I was younger at the time, and I remember telling my brother, I was like, oh, man, I'll no longer be a Bulls fan if we draft Michael Beasley. I'm sure they were going after Derek the whole time, though. Derek was a beast at Simeon and obviously at Memphis as well. But that being said, last year set the table for expectations, which is kind of unfair to the front office because they did so many big splash plays and moves last year by getting Lonzo, Debo, and Caruso, that this offseason seemed kind of flat and just not very entertaining or really improving the team much. However, I actually disagree. I love this offseason so far. I wanted to see the team run it back, the main reason being injuries, and also I think the Tristan Thompson signing seemed to affect the team's vibes, and maybe I'm looking too much into that, and I know I'm not the first one to have that take, but it just seemed like the team got real down after they signed Tristan Thompson, and I'm not necessarily making him the scapegoat. I'm guessing it's far more complex than just that single signing, but I do think that did have a ripple effect on the Bulls' success last year. And as I mentioned, I'm not trying to make him the scapegoat, but there was other things in play with that signing, such as other players not getting as many minutes that were in the rotation. Tony Bradley kind of was removed from the rotation, and not that Tony Bradley is Shaquille O'Neal or anything like that, but I do think that the team had a really strong chemistry, and that kind of potentially derailed that a bit. And so signing Drummond is a legit center in this league. I know he's more of a throwback player kind of just, lunch bucket guy. He's going to, get rebounds and, bang in the post and, put up, some decent numbers if he starts. But let me tell you, I mean, he's averaging a double-double off the bench in like 20 minutes last year with, I believe, Brooklyn at the time. And, that's impressive. Anyone that could average a double-double in the NBA is impressive, let alone off the bench in like 22 minutes playing time. So he's going to really address a need that the Bulls struggled with against teams like Milwaukee and some other bigger teams, which is rebounding. The Bulls really struggled on rebounding. I know there's concerns that Drummond doesn't necessarily fix the rim protection issue that a lot of fans wanted addressed in this offseason. And I agree that he's not a pure shot blocker, but I do think he'll bring a physical presence that will really help against teams like Milwaukee and players like Giannis, Zion, anyone that's trying to crash at the rim and dunk it, basically. And I think he will help in a lot of ways this season. I don't think we'll see much of him and Vooch playing together, but I could be wrong, especially against teams like Milwaukee once again. And I do think Milwaukee's the team to beat. I know a lot of fans or NBA people in general think the Celtics are. I think the Celtics are really good. I think they're still very young. Their core is very young, and obviously KD's in the picture potentially maybe now. But I think that the Celtics, there's always something I think last year was their year. They had to strike when the iron was hot. I think they're going to kind of have a similar season as they have the last couple seasons, which is they're kind of up and down. And, that's my concern if I was a Celtics fan or, I wouldn't put my money on the Celtics to make it back to the finals. Now, if they make a trade for KD and make some other big splash plays like they already have, like Brogdon, I might be singing a different tune. But, there's some challenges there. I think that the team has a good coach. But I think, we're going to have to see it more than just 1 year. Obviously, they showed it back when Kyrie was on the team, when Tatum was a rookie, I believe. I think they lost to LeBron in the conference finals, I believe. And so they have some success, but I think the consistency would be something I'm looking for. And this isn't, I think the Celtics are still better than the Bulls right this moment, but I just want to state that I still think if you're building a team in the East, you have to go through Milwaukee. Giannis is just too dominant, and that's why I'm bringing this detail up. So that's why I love the Drummond signing. I think he's going to really help not only the bench mob, the backups, but he's also going to be probably getting some crunch time minutes depending on the matchup. Obviously, that's a concern as well as a Bulls fan because he's notoriously really bad at free throws. But I do think overall it's a plus signing. There's no excuse now. There's no issues with backup centers anymore. Last year we kind of had, like I said, Tony Bradley, Tristan Thompson, Tyler Cook would play a little bit of center. And I like all those players in some capacity, but Drummond's going to be a pro's pro, and Drummond's going to come in here and get you rebounds and easy putbacks. And that's what we really need. We don't need anybody much more than that. We already have Zach and Debo putting up 20 shots a night, and you have potentially, hopefully, Lonzo putting up a solid 10 to 15 shots. You got Caruso, who's probably going to get, 8 to 10 shots, and then you also have Patrick Williams, who will hopefully be taking his next steps in his career and kind of turning into that player that we all know and hope he can become. And so I really like the Drummond signing. And then let's go on to the re-signing of Derrick Jones Jr., another signing I love. I think Derrick Jones Jr. is, the way we used him last year is interesting just because I think in a perfect world he'd be kind of refined to small forward. And I know the NBA is kind of a positionless league now, but I still feel like he's better suited for the small forward position. But at least offensively, he's more of a 4 and 5 because he could just jump out of the gym. And his shooting's not too bad, though. He shot the 3-ball a lot better than I expected for him. Obviously, he struggled at points of the season last year with the 3-ball or just shots in general. But he when we needed him to hit a corner 3, he hit a fair amount. So I love that signing at the price we got him at, too. Great signing, great re-signing. And then one that's not official yet that I can see, but it has been reported on multiple outlets and by others in the YouTube industry and podcasting industry is Goran Dragic. And that's kind of controversial as well, and I'll touch on why here in a moment. But yeah, I'm pretty confident that he'll end up officially signing with us. I don't know if that's official or not yet. I just know that when I look on like Real GM and some other resources, they don't actually show that signing yet. So that's kind of weird. But that being said, I love the Goran Dragic signing if that does become official. And what I love about it is that he's going to bring a veteran point guard mentality to the Bulls backcourt. And that's going to help Zach, even though Zach's now a veteran, but Zach, just played his first playoff series last year, didn't get to finish it due to illness, and was also playing with a banged up knee. And basically, Goran's going to be able to come in there and settle things down. And especially in a playoff series, you need a player like that can run a half-court offense and get the right guy the ball at the right time. And I think Goran can do that. I also think he's underrated on the defensive end. Is he a lockdown defender? Hell no, he's not. But you can, trust him and believe in him and not expect him to get totally bullied on the defensive end. So I really like that signing. He kind of had a down year on the three ball, I believe, if you look at his stats. But I also another willing three-point shooter, which is always necessary on a team that has Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. And I think he'll actually bring some chemistry with him. My understanding is he's cool with Vooch, and Vooch is kind of who got him to sign with the Bulls. So that's kind of cool, and I think that will help the team chemistry as well. And then you have Dalen Terry, who I'll include in the offseason moves because he was our 18th first-round pick, or 18th round pick in the first round that we picked. And I like Dalen Terry too. I'm excited for Dalen Terry. I'm a little... I think he's more of a project player in a lot of ways on offense, which that's not a bold statement by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm going to sound this may sound mean, I don't want Dalen Terry playing much this season. And that's not a knock on Dalen Terry. That's not a knock on the pick or the Bulls front office or the Bulls organization. What I mean by that is if he's playing a lot of minutes, that means someone's hurt. And that's why I don't want him playing a lot of minutes. Because we kind of have a lot of point guards, a lot of two guards, a lot of small forwards, a lot of players that can switch between 1 and 4. You throw Javonte in there, Derek Jones Jr., Zach, Caruso, Debo, obviously Lonzo, hopefully if he's fully back for the regular season, which LeVar said he will be. And obviously Ayo and Kobe White, and I'm sure I may even be forgetting somebody, but if I'm not, that's still like 10 guys. So if Dalen Terry is getting a lot of minutes next year, that's not a good sign. Now, if he magically turns into Michael Jordan overnight and or plays like Ayo did even last year, then yeah, that makes sense. But still, I'm hoping his opportunity next season is limited. And it's not because I don't like him. It's not because I don't think he has the talent or ability. It's just I think that's a bad sign if you're the Bulls. If he's getting anywhere over 15 minutes a game, that's even up to that point, I'd be concerned, honestly. But, if he's getting 20 minutes plus a game next year, I'd be concerned because that means someone's either not defending or a lot of injuries. But love the pick. I think 2 to 3 years from now, I'm hoping him and Patrick, or P. Willie, or Pat Will, whatever you want to call him. I love P. Willie. That's my favorite nickname for Patrick Williams. I hope him and Patrick Williams can kind of become the future foundation for the Bulls. And, having 2 versatile defender wings, kind of 3-and-D prototypes as your foundation can be so helpful. Zach will be probably just coming in or out of his prime, rather, in 3 to 4 years. But he'll still be very versatile because he's still super athletic and can shoot the 3 ball really well. And you have these 2 young wing 3-and-D guys that can hopefully be defensive juggernauts by then. Perhaps they won't be, but they'll still be plus defenders, which is key in the NBA today. Especially last year, I feel like they allowed more physicality on the wings and on the perimeter, rather. And I think you need... that's the new prototype. All these teams have like 7 small forwards that are in the rotation, and they all play 1 through 5, it seems like. I know that's exaggerating, and I'm kind of blowing it out of proportion, but it sure seems that way. I think Otto Porter, former Bull, I'm a big Otto Porter Jr. fan. Not the biggest, but I respected his game, and I wish he wasn't so hurt when he played with the Bulls. But yeah, I mean, he was playing, I want to say he was playing center in the finals, if I'm not mistaken. At the very least, he was playing a lot of 4, which, that seems crazy if you say that 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You would never think Otto Porter would have been playing 4 or 5 in the NBA Finals and then winning a ring. Mad props to Otto Porter Jr. and the Golden State Warriors for that, but just saying, like, that's where the league's headed, and, you know, that's not a hot take at all. Everyone knows that. That's kind of just the way it is. So, yeah, just a quick summary. So we covered Drummond. We covered Goran. We touched on Dalen Terry. We touched on Derrick Jones Jr., you know, some of the other rookies, like I mentioned, Justin Lewis, interesting two-way contract player. I think he has a lot of upside. Watching him in the Summer League, you know, I wouldn't say I was impressed by any stretch of the imagination, but his athleticism definitely was on display. He'd have some nice jams and dunks on people, and defensively he had a couple nice blocks, but he looks very unpolished. So I think a two-way contract's awesome that we got him under that term. And then I'll touch on one other tidbit about the offseason. I watched all the Summer League. Marko Simonovic looked pretty solid. He looked like he belongs in the NBA. You know, I think he had at least one really bad game. The game we got blown out by the Knicks, I believe. He looked pretty poor in that game, but other than that, Marko looked pretty solid. I thought Marko looked solid last year. I think one of my frustrations about this last season was how Billy coached the team, specifically with certain rotations and who would be touching the ball at certain times of the game. And that's a future episode I'll do. I think Billy's a plus coach. I wonder what the ceiling on Billy as a coach is. And I'm not trying to knock Billy. I'm just speaking, you know, he's definitely probably not Phil Jackson. So where is he on that totem pole of good coaches? Is he a great coach? Is he just a solid coach? Is he, you know, below average? I think we know the answer to some of those already, but I don't know if we could really put him in on a certain tier. And that's something that I want to revisit on a future podcast, probably a longer free-form episode, longer than this one, where I kind of dive into the Bulls as a whole and the season predictions for next year. So please feel free to follow and subscribe and like. Share this with your friends if they like the Bulls too. Even if you don't like the Bulls, if you just want to hear me talking some Bulls, feel free to follow. And thank you for the support. And yeah, I'm out.